Is this season 4, episode 3, maybe? Or 4, if we do merchant.
They alternate between
Yeah.
between merchant and partners. So I think it's it's 3. So season 4, episode 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Season 4? Guys.
Mm-hmm.
Every half of a year, right? We do a new season.
The first season was a year long, but same amount of, we were doing like 2 episodes a month. So same amount of episodes in the season, but just spread out along 1 year, and then ramped it up in season 2, and then started doing once every week. So now it's been each half of the year.
That's a little background on Retention Chronicles that I think should leave in this episode.
B-roll.
Yeah.
I'll leave it in.
That's the behind the scenes.
Right.
We always, now I'm going to go on a tangent, because we always say we should be recording.
Yeah.
So
Every time.
we'll just always be recording.
Yeah, always be recording. That's my life motto.
ABR.
I'm going to put that on merch and sell it.
I think you should. ABR.
My favorite
ABR.
podcast.
Not always be closing.
Dude, I legit just thought about this. Like, I do a little LinkedIn series every quarter and kind of do a new topic or like new theme. And I thought about one that would be like like each post is always be something.
Yeah.
Like always be hiring. I'm not hiring right now, but talking to people.
It should be things that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it could be the opposite theme of like, here's things you should always be doing that I'm never doing, or that I'm not doing.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, always be drinking water.
Yeah, always be exercising every day.
Right.
Eating healthy.
Take it from me, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, we're definitely leaving this in. Welcome, John. If you didn't catch the beginning, season 4, episode 3. And it's been a long time coming. I think we rescheduled yours that I came on a couple times.
Right.
And you rescheduled on us a couple times. So we're even now. But yeah. Founder of Modern Commerce. And like I said, I think we released the episode that I was on just a few weeks ago and did some promotion around that. It was a great time, and
it's one of our most downloaded episodes in the last like 3 months. So
no kidding.
Oh,
I think that's probably because of you guys, though. I think that's all you.
We did promote, right? We promoted it, we put it in our newsletter and everything. Nice. So that was a fun time. I think we had a great discussion on that.
So we've always done our little background. We've always done our podcast live. We've recently started not doing it live. And so we uploaded that one like later, like we recorded it several weeks ago and then we uploaded that one later. And I legitimately laughed listening back to it. Like I like actually like laughed out loud by myself, which is a strange thing to do. Like usually when you're just by yourself, you do like, you breathe through your nose, like
like a little
chuckle. Yeah. But I actually laughed. We went on a whole cat tangent. It was a good time.
Yeah. Cats and milk were.
Yeah. Those were the main topics, actually. Yeah. We did. It was a like 30%, good like business advice and
yes, I was
smashing on people who have cats.
Yeah.
We're big fans here, for people who don't know, big fans of meshing personal and professional. So that's the best way to do it. Some entertainment, some education. All in a pretty package. Well, I don't know about pretty actually, but in a package.
And it's in a package,
Yeah.
Speaking of which, it's the prettiest it could be.
Yes.
Blending personal life. Tell us 1 or 2 things that you're excited about right now, John. Personally.
Yeah, this is a good one. You sent over like, some bullet points of questions.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the hardest one for me to answer. Going on in my personal life. Which is funny because I'm married. I have 3 kids and I have like 5 dogs. And
holy cow.
Like, yeah, I guess so. That's one thing,
That's exciting.
You guys didn't talk about that in your cats.
That's a great way to put it. It is exciting. It's not always like exciting in a good way.
Yeah.
But there's a lot happening, it's chaotic.
Yeah.
So it's a good time. So my oldest is, so I'm like, it's like 7. No, she's not 7 yet. So it's 6, 5, and 2. And then I got a bunch of dogs that are mostly some form of golden doodle. So that's going on. And then also, what else is going on in my personal life? Not a lot. I've been traveling a lot, not for personal, but for work, which is strange when you've worked at home for like 4 months to go out into the world and like go into an airport and be around people and stuff like that. You're like, this is, or like when Lyft drivers talk to you, I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
What? Like I've got my headphones in for a reason. Why would you assume I can hear you?
Yeah. You're like, I'm sorry, what? I'm deaf.
Yeah. Oh, let me take that
Seinfeld
out.
thing. Yeah.
Pretend there's nothing playing, they're on transparency mode and there's nothing playing, but I want them in so you don't talk to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the appearance. Yeah.
Do it all the time. Where'd you travel? Anywhere?
Yeah. So I am a fractional CMO for a company called Andar, which, for your audience, I guess if you want to buy a wallet or a bag or something like that, you should check them out, andar.com. So e-commerce brand. And I go there once a month. They're based in Phoenix. And then I'm also consulting and sort of fractional CMOing for a company called DAP Sports, which is another e-commerce brand, but they do like sports cards and sports memorabilia. So that's a good time. And they're in LA, so I go there twice a month. So I'm traveling like 3 weeks out of the month.
Wow.
Which is not like a new, it's like that's like an old school thing to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's like old school.
I'll
always be closing.
Yeah.
Style,
Yeah.
A warrior.
Yeah. No, I feel like I'm like my grandpa, just like, I got to travel for money.
Right.
It's not the way. It's not the way now.
But those are good places to be traveling to. It's hot right now, but they're still cool places. Go ahead.
A lot of it is just that they're really good companies and they have very in-person cultures.
Got it.
I think that maybe I craved that since I had been working. I started my agency remotely, and then agency is just this kind of business that you can just do remotely. And so I'd been remote for a few years, and then also my kids got old enough to make like lots of noise in my house, and 5 dogs also make lots of noise, and so I think I just got like ready to go like collaborate in person a little bit more.
Sure. That's cool. I feel like the whole idea of like in-person culture is waning overall. So it's cool that they have a strong one. That's a great segue. Like, tell us about the professional background. Obviously we said modern commerce is the current main focus, but would love to know sort of everything leading up to there.
Yeah. So I've been in the game in the digital marketing game since I guess 24, like 10 years, 2013. Right around when I was even like, I was in like the multimedia program in college. And so I was even like the social media manager for like our radio station and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And which back then was like,
for, or
yes. Yeah, it was. And so back then what that meant was like when we did videos, I posted them on Facebook. So that was the social media manager job. You post them on Facebook and YouTube. So uploading was the main job. And so, yeah, I guess that was even in like 2011, 2012. And then, so I did fast forwarding through that early stage, I managed a retail store for a second, hated every aspect of that other than the marketing, like all the logistics and stuff were awful. So I went to work at a marketing agency that was a SEO agency. And they had like 17,000 clients. Said that right. It was 17,000. That was the number when I left.
Oh my God.
Lots of local business clients. So it's like, if you're a dentist, if you're anywhere in the United States and you look for a dentist in your city, their SEO is probably done by that company, or a lawyer, or like anything really. So they had tons of so it was an assembly line. Basically it was a glorified like factory line. And I went from, I liked that a lot, and I like rose through it and stuff like that. But then I went from there to like the opposite, like a super white glove agency that had like 10 people, and the agency with only 10 people or less than 10 people did like $12 million a year in revenue with like whatever, 8 clients or 10 clients or something like that. So really big clients that had really big budgets. So it was like the opposite kind of work. I went there, and that like I was trying to go the opposite direction. That's when I first started. They hired me because of my SEO background, but that was when I first started managing Facebook ads. That was like 2015. So I knew what ads manager looked like, and that qualified me to be the head of paid social in 2015. They're like, oh, you've been inside ad manager.
That was it. That was the only qualification. Yeah.
That was basically my whole career story. Is I've done a bunch of jobs I'm not qualified for, and then figured it out on the doing it. I have no lack of too much confidence. That was a weird thing. I have too much confidence. I could have just said, I have no lack of times in my life where I've been overconfident.
Give the listeners a puzzle, you know, they have to figure it out.
No lack of too much. What? Yeah.
So you kind of need that to dive headfirst into a role that's bigger than you've ever done. So
yeah. Also, that whole time I forgot this. I overlaid this. Like I was helping launch this thing that was like group. I was a cross country and track like All-American in college, and I ran a professionally afterwards. And so I was helping launch this like Groupon for runners, which is just an awful idea because Groupon already is that. But like we thought it was a good idea at the time. Like most people are doing startups. And that was how I knew how to do Facebook Ads Manager. And so, yeah, like that qualified me for head of paid social over like multiple six-figure budgets instantly. So I learned fast. You learn fast when you spend that much money. And sometimes burn that much money. So when I left, I got fired from that agency, and like, yeah, it was intense. So my wife was pregnant with our second child at that time, and we already had one child. That's hence second child. She was in school. She was in nursing, so she didn't really have a job. She was just in nursing school. We had just moved so that her parents could help us out, and I was like, providing for us with that job, and that was the only income. And I got fired, and it was like, oh man, this is bad. And so I like walked into the parking lot, and like usually the first thing you do is you call a significant other or whatever, you tell them what happened. I did not do that. I was like, that's not like what I want to do right now. But what I had done was, when I got made the head of paid social and I got given these big budgets, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I just started networking. Like I just started going to every event that agency would send me to. I started getting Facebook groups. That's what was more popular then. Like now it's kind of Twitter, but Facebook groups were kind of the thing then. And I just started learning. I started this mastermind. You know, what's funny is like I was not qualified at all to run 6 figures a month in budget, but I like posted in a Facebook group, like, hey, anyone else who's doing 6 figures a month and spend want to make a mastermind of like people who are doing 6 figures plus, like just acting like I belonged, you know? And like a bunch of people did. And I legit to this day, I'm like, I credit that mastermind with like so much. Wow. So I walked out, like after they fired me, I walked out. It's like the most awkward thing ever to get fired from an office, like an in-person office, and like go clean out your desk, like while everybody's like pretending, they're like looking at their computer, like pretending they're not seeing what's going on.
That's so ruthless. Like this was like during the workday.
No, they specifically said I've been fired. Well, fired is a weird way to put the other thing I've been, but because it was bought out. But I've been let go or parted ways with twice, and it was both times on a Friday, and both times it was like Wednesday or Thursday. They're like, hey, can we get a meeting with you at 9 a.m. on a Friday? So like if someone ever asks for a 9 a.m. Friday meeting, be like, I'm out of town that day. So and then start looking for a job. That's my big hot tip. And if you're not going to fire someone, don't ask for a 9 a.m. Friday meeting, because apparently that's the time you fire people.
Right. Jeez.
No, well, I'll ask you for a 9 a.m. Friday meeting.
Yeah. Don't do it. It's a trap.
We don't even work on Fridays, so we have a 4-day work week. It's pretty,
Oh yeah, so you guys really know. If you ever get asked for a 9 a.m. Friday meeting, you're like, okay, I need to dust off the resume.
Yeah.
So they let me go, and there's like this awkward, and like I had the wherewithal, because it's like a very emotional experience when it's like the first time in my like career, you know what I mean? And I had like the wherewithal because I'd been doing this networking and stuff, and I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I guess that I had brought some clients into the agency that like specifically wanted to work with me because I was so active in these Facebook groups. So I went into my former boss's office before I left, and I said, hey, what about these 2 clients? Are you guys going to continue to work with them? And he goes, no, I don't think so. And I was like, can I? And he was like, yeah, just send them like I had to like send some documentation that signed their rights over to me and stuff like that. So I like Googled it and whatever, used LegalZoom or whatever. And and so I walked out, got in my car. I'm like sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, well, that's good. I've got those two. And it wasn't a lot of money, but I was like, I've got those two. And then I'd also been networking. So I was like, okay, let me make a few calls. I made a couple calls. And by the time I talked to my wife, so I drove over to her campus because she's studying in the library there. So I drove over there. It was where I went to school too. So I like parked, went inside and sat down with her. And I was like, okay, I got fired. And so she's like, that's not good, right? She's like, kind of freaking out. And I'm like, but it's okay. I think we're going to make more money than we just were.
Wow. Like on the drive over, you had already.
Yeah. Like, I made a couple calls while I was sitting there in the parking lot of the place I just got fired from. Yeah. So the lesson is network, one, to learn, because that's the other thing is I had actually gotten really good at running paid social through like everything I learned from everybody. One, to learn, and then two, because network is your net worth. Like that was it. I had instant business. I had instant other agencies who were like, yeah, you can freelance for me, or you can, so I had 4 or 5 clients, and it was going to be enough, slightly more than what I had been making. And plus, because I'd had just done this thing where I'd just doing this mastermind and just providing value. I wasn't looking for a job. I wasn't looking for work. I wasn't hunting for clients.
Right.
Like once people found out like, oh, you're a free agent, or like, oh, you just got let go. Like they're like, can I hire you? Or like, I know someone perfect for you to work with, or they just want to help out because they're like, all you do is bring value. Right. So I think that I don't know if there's a lesson there somewhere, but smarter people can figure out.
Well, one is always be networking.
Always be networking. AVN. That was the
next LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
That was the start of my agency. We ran that for 3 or 4 years.
And what was that called?
Explosive Growth Marketing. Brought on a partner. Worked with some really awesome, amazing, like big brands, Snow Teeth Whitening. We worked with Udi, the like blanket hoodie company. We got really good at Snapchat ads, and my partner was like well known for being the Snapchat dude. Diesel Power Gear was another big one we worked with. They had a show on the Discovery Channel called Diesel Brothers. So yeah, it was a good time. Ended up selling that agency to the Structured Agency, which is pretty well known now in the D2C game. That was an acqui-hire, so they hired my whole team as well as me, and I think that's the main reason they wanted to acquire it. Was with them for. So I actually had worked myself more or less out of my agency. So I was with them before even the sale happened for like a year. And then I was with them for about another 1.5 years after the sale. And then they bought out the rest of my contract and bought out my equity because I had phantom equity in Structured.
Yep.
And same kind of thing, Friday morning meeting. We're gonna pay you out and don't come on Monday.
This one was a little easier to swallow, though. I think.
Yeah, at least there was some money involved.
Right.
Not a lot. It was my phantom equity. They were so much bigger than me that my phantom equity in that company was just, it was like not even a 1%. But it was symbolic. There was symbolic.
For sure. Hey, you got acquired, man. Like that's
right. I can tell the story that I got acquired. Right.
Yeah.
So. And then after that, I was like, I'd been doing the podcast for about a year, 2 years, 1.5 years, something like that. And I was like, I would really love to just do that full time. So that's kind of what we're up to now. We had this podcast, and we'd also started a sports podcast. And so I'm like, all right, well, can I build a media company? Which is a whole other thing. And that's kind of what I'm up to now. But then obviously still doing some work in the e-commerce game because I didn't, when you're building a media company, you don't just make money right away. You got to have like a lot of people listening to you first.
I'm sure you're spending a decent amount as well.
You're definitely spending money. I'm good at that.
Yeah. Right. That is something you're very good at and experienced in.
That's how you learn, right?
But most of my experience,
right. Spending money. That's a hell of an experience. What made you decide to go the podcast route? Like what sort of trends or indicators did you see that made you say like, man, I think there's something here?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, I wanted to not be fireable again.
Fair.
Right. Like, so I looked at the most valuable people at Structured and the most and I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm putting them on blast because everybody knows it's Structured. So I can't like get around it when I'm on these podcasts. Cause like everybody knows I was at Structured because Structured is such a build and public company.
Yeah.
So like, I don't want to overly put them on blast, but I look at the most valuable people at Structured, who I think is the most valuable people at Structured. And it's Chase Diamond and Nick Shackelford. They're co-founders. but like, even if they weren't co-founders, they're pretty indispensable because they're where all the business comes from.
Yeah.
Right. The internal creators, essentially. So I looked at that and I was like, okay, well, that's what whether I go work for a company again or not, I want to be a creator. Right. So what they're really hiring me for is my audience. And maybe my knowledge of ops and stuff like that. Like I ran big paid media teams. I have a lot of experience running paid media. Like I can do a lot. Right. But I think a lot of the time it's like, sometimes your skills don't matter if a company just changes directions. And I'm not against building skills. I'm big on building skills. But like, a structure just went another way. Like instead they're trying to go into bigger, more like Fortune 100, Fortune 500 brands. And that's not where my skill set lied. So like that's a big part of it is I kind of wanted to like become a little bit more indispensable no matter what I did, whether it was my company or something else.
Yeah.
And the other thing is something I've been talking about a little bit lately that I'll, get a little spicy here. And that is that
bring the spice. Love this.
Yeah. So here it is. The spice is that an agency business model is never aligned with a client business model. It just isn't.
Okay.
And don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying it can't work. It certainly can. It can be a working relationship, a vendor partner relationship, but it's never aligned, right? Like and agencies have tried it in so many different formats. I've tried it in so many different formats to say, what about, when you guys grow, we grow, when you eat, we eat. It just doesn't work. And that's like a whole rabbit hole we could go down.
But well, like at a high level, can you like, does it not work because does what you just described not work because it's way too much risk on the agency, or does it not work for other reasons on top of that?
Okay. Pretend for a second that you're a brand. I come to you as an agency and I say, hey, you don't have to pay me very much. Like charge you whatever, maybe nothing, maybe no base fee.
Sure.
But here's what I want. If my work is able to grow your brand and you hit these revenue, I want XYZ% of the revenue or XYZ% of ad spend or whatever. Sounds good, right? Like, especially if you're a brand that's not very successful yet, probably sounds pretty good. Okay. Does it still sound good when you send me a $50,000 check for a month of work? Does it still sound good when there's a lot of other things contributing to the growth besides just my work, because we've gotten traction and there's like more things involved in growth than just whatever that agency is doing? Like it gets a little bit more muddy. And like furthermore, what if I say, okay, but I got to lock you into a 5-year contract too, because if I'm really going to stake my business on your business, I got to know you're not going to 1 month be like 30 days notice.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to basically be hiring around your business. I'm going to be hiring people just to take care of your business. So if you drop me, I'm dropping whatever, however many people, 4 people, 5 people, however many people that I've just hired to take care of your business. No, on the brand side, you don't want to be locked into that kind of contract. On the brand side, even if it makes sense, even if mathematically it's like it makes all the sense in the world when I send them a $50,000 check, $100,000 check, there's an amount of money that just feels not right? Like, couldn't I just hire a full internal team of really high level people for this amount or anything? Like, couldn't I get a similar level agency? Aside from that, once you get traction with a brand, they get so many pitches from so many, like they're just constantly getting bombarded with like, oh, I looked at your Facebook ads account or your ads you're running or your Google account or whatever it is, and I noticed all these, and then they that stuff gets forwarded to you. Like basically people are bombarding them and constantly tell them, I audited you without, really being able to audit. I audited you and I found all these mistakes, right? So they start like subtly undercutting your work. And a lot of times it's like, you're not using audience targeting. I'm like, yeah, we tested that 50 times and it doesn't work. So just chill. So I'm not saying all like some clients are good. It's just, that's just it. Like that's, you can't build a business around that. On the agency side, you can't build a business that way. You can't build a business around 3-4 clients. That's the dream. You really want to work with 3 or 4 clients and do really incredible work and share in the upside. Without equity, you just we've tried it. We've cut it, every way we can. We tried it every way we can. This is one of mine and Nick Shackelford's favorite things to talk about. It doesn't work. You got to build the agency model differently. You got to build it as like a vendor. Hey, we're a vendor. If that business goes out of business, if that good business, right, like we can't be that reliant on that. But we want to be a vendor who provides value as much as we can within scope.
Right. Well, it's interesting, like the parallels between what you just described from an agency business standpoint and your personal experience of trying to de-risk, right? Like your personal career.
Right. Yeah. It's well, and so that's the other thing is that I'm like, okay, if that's the case, then what is a flywheel? What is like more of a flywheel relationship where what's best for the business is also best for you? Yeah. So this is what I've been thinking about a lot in media lately. A great example of this that already exists is in the sports world. The Pat McAfee show is huge, right?
Yeah. We're big fans. We're in Indianapolis.
Hey, all right. So Pat McAfee show is huge. So I chose the right example for you.
Yeah.
Pat McAfee show is huge. Their relationship with FanDuel is symbiotic, right? FanDuel benefits from promoting the content that they make that promotes FanDuel, right? Because FanDuel, not even if people are already users of FanDuel, like they want people following Pat into bets, or they want people taking AJ's recommendations. You know what I mean? Like they want people betting more, right? So it's symbiotic. It makes sense for FanDuel to actually promote him in his content. It also makes sense for him to promote FanDuel, right? Like and so FanDuel gets customers from him, and then they get in this cycle of like, we show you, you show us, and then you bring customers in, and then cycle and become more and more valuable as we like share more content with them, and they become more bigger fans of you, and they use us more often. So I just started thinking about that as like, what are the more symbiotic relationships where as the brand grows, you also grow, and it's content and it's the traffic source, right? And the content ultimately that's what it is. It's it's a traffic source, right?
Right.
So that's kind of the route, I think.
Yeah, man, that's so like for me personally, being the partnerships guy here at Malomo, you know, it's music to my ears. Where do we find this sort of like symbiotic alignment that makes it sort of a no-brainer to spend time together and
that's what your podcast
go to market together. And
B2B podcasts are amazing for that, I think, because one, you can easily network with people that otherwise maybe would be hard to network with for partnerships.
Totally.
And two, you know, if you bring someone in with a piece of content, with partnership, with like onto a newsletter, into a podcast or whatever, you know, they might not be customers right away, but over time, there's the trust factors way up. And then on the Malomo side, even with the current customers, it just like behooves them to promote the podcast. So Malomo grows, podcast grows. If they grow together, it's symbiotic, right? So B2B has figured this out, right? And the content marketing is big in B2B. It's big in SaaS. It's big in info. E-commerce hasn't quite figured it out, but
right. Yeah. Who like, are there any brands? We might have talked about this a little. Well, we talked about community on the episode I was on with you and sort of like influencer marketing, if I remember. But are there, which kind of ties into this, right? Like you building a brand around content and community sort of conform through that as well. Are there any brands that you think are doing the content game that you just described that's working well in B2B, really well in D2C right now?
No, I mean, I can, you know the B2B brands,
right. Yeah.
Malomo,
thank you, man.
Heck yeah.
Triple is one, Triple Whale.
Yeah. Triple Whale's crushing it, dude.
HubSpot's been crushing it for years.
Yeah. Funny thing about Triple Whale real quick, Mariah, I don't know if I shared this with you, but they like promoted some event that we were hosting recently in their newsletter. So like, they're not even, I love that approach because it's like, we're going to highlight the other content engines that we think are doing a great job. And they're probably just doing it so much and so well at scale that they're like, this will come back in spades in the form of reciprocity.
HubSpot's like just so big. Yeah. Your Triple Whale's just so big. Yeah. Like, yep. Yeah. Like and everyone who goes to work there is kind of a mini creator too. It's cool. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah.
That's a really cool strategy of like Triple Whale, just to kind of like piggyback and make a network of like all these different events and then bring their communities to other places.
Their pillars are like community, content, and education. And like if you look at what they do, they live them well. Their team is really good and their team is all really bought into it. So that's a big part of it. But on the D2C side, there's not a lot of really great examples. Black Rifle Coffee has attempted to do some stuff like this. Diesel Power Gear used to, but they got to the point where they actually just liked being creators and more. So they're kind of like not, they haven't been as big on their D2C business. People who were creators first. So Chamberlain Coffee, Magnolia, whatever. Magnolia wrote the like Chip and Joanna Gaines brand, right? So people who were creators first, Feastables.
Jones Road Beauty too,
Jones Road
like
Beauty.
Bobby Brown. Florence by Mills, Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah. So Jones Road Beauty, Feastables. So everything that was creator first, that, it kind of does that. But brands that were not creator first, I don't see a lot of them like cracking it. But that's sort of what I'm working on. So that's and I mean, I guess to plug kind of my own brands that I work at, and my own content product properties that I'm launching with them. I'll give you an example of what I think it might look like, right? And we're early stage on this, so I don't know if it's going to work, but here's like maybe 2 examples of what I think it might look like. So Andar, they've done a lot of work over the years with influencers, right? They all the way back to the pay to post, right? Just pay influencers to post. They've done something I've not seen a lot of D2C native brands do, and they've done a royalty deal, like Air Jordan type deal with an influencer, and they're really, really good at influencer marketing. They have this really robust brand ambassador program. They have like 3,000 ambassadors, influencers, small micro influencers, all the way up to large influencers are very valuable to them. So, and they also have some people working there internally. So myself and 2 other people who have like, they have a person who has like 800,000 followers on TikTok, another has like 100,000. So they have some creators who kind of work there internally. So I was like, well, what if we launched a podcast and YouTube channel, potentially a newsletter, I don't know, for creators, right? And it's like content for creators, but the ultimate value to Andar is that it brings more creators, micro influencers, aspiring creators into their brand. And then the same thing with B2B, it helps us network, right? So if we want to try and get, I don't want to say anyone who's actually on our list. So, let's say we want to do a collab with, they want to do athletes, right? So like, let's say we want to do a collab with like Devin Booker.
Yep.
Makes sense, right? It's a lot easier to get him in on a podcast than it is to be like, hey, come in and do a collab. Like, it's just, come, let us sell you something, or let us sell you on an idea or whatever. Just come do a podcast, and we do it at their headquarters. Their headquarters are really cool. And it's like, it's a vibe. They come there, and it's like the lead gen kind of machine for those high-end creators they want to do collabs with. And then also it attracts a lot of low-end creators. So this is the idea, right? So we're launching episode 1, probably, I think this month. There's only 1 day left in this month as we're recording this.
Do you know what
this month?
It might not be this month.
Called?
Yeah, the show will be called Create What Matters if you want to check it out. Sweet. If you follow me anywhere, then I'll probably post about it. Yeah. But yeah, the show will be called Create What Matters. I'll put it onto the Modern Commerce feed. So if you listen to my show Modern Commerce, I'll put it onto there. And then I'll link there where you can find their feed, because we haven't even set their feed up yet because there's no show. So like that's one example. Another example is like the reason I partner with DAP Sports is because our brand, our podcast, our sports podcast, the live show, we do a lot of giveaways, and we're giving away these like NBA shop gift cards, NFL shop gift cards, and stuff like that. Like, what if we just give away DAPS gift cards, right?
Yeah.
Somebody, I mean, and the thing is, they do live shopping. So they make all their money with live shopping. So kind of what you need for somebody to get in on it is you need them to experience it, right? It's like, why don't we give people a gift card that's an amount where they're probably going to have to still spend a little bit of their own money, but the main thing is that they get to experience a live shopping experience where I buy into, they do like live, like sports card breaks, which is another whole world, but like I buy into this team, and I'm like, my favorite team is the Kansas City Chiefs, so that, I'm going to buy the Kansas City Chiefs in this break, and any Chiefs card I'm going to get, right? They buy into it with $50. They had to spend 25 of their own. 25 came from the gift card, and a Pat Mahomes autograph, it's pulled, right? And so they get that because they bought the Chiefs. And so that, okay, well, I'm hooked now, right? Like now I'm in. And then even if they don't get anything, DAPS does a good job of like giving people something, even if there wasn't any Chiefs in that whole break. Sure. So like that kind of works, but then also like DAPS already live streams all day. So it's like a really kind of like congruent sort of thing where there's just a lot of opportunities there. So I think that, I think there's ways, but I think that you can't necessarily, it can't be on the nose. It can't be about the product, right? Like Andar's isn't about the product. Theirs could be about tech, right? Because all of their products go along with tech. Or it could be about creators, influencers, but it's got to be valuable content in and of itself, I think.
Right. Absolutely. Like tactically, I think I understand the clear value props for like lower level influencers, not the Devin Bookers of the world.
Right.
How are you getting the Devin Bookers of the world? Is that, is there still an upfront fee? Is there, refer or affiliate
question
percentage in perpetuity? Like, how are you getting him to come to HQ to record a podcast?
At that level, there's no one way.
Mm-hmm.
So one, it is easier to get someone who's a little bigger to do a podcast. So that's just that. I'm not saying Devin Booker is an example of someone. But yeah, it is just easier than to say, hey, we want to do a deal or whatever. And even like, for their agent or whatever, like sometimes they just want to talk business. They're not really into doing a podcast. Sometimes they're just a person who's like, yeah, I'll come do a podcast. And then you can give them, you can see them product right there. If they think the product is cool, then what we're ultimately stepping toward is a royalty deal with someone that big. Because if you just bring on Devin Booker as an influencer and pay him to do a post, it's not going to actually work out great for you as a brand. Pay for post is just not a super high ROI model. Now, there will be some ancillary benefits, just the brand cool factor will be there, and you'll have other people who want to rep it because he reps it or whatever. But yeah, like if you pay Devin Booker to post, it's not gonna, or any big creator like that, any big, like anyone with a big following like that, it's just not gonna be like high ROI. So what you're ultimately stepping for is you want to do a royalty deal with them where you actually make a new product or a new colorway or a new version of an old product in collaboration with them. So we've seen Donovan Mitchell, who used to play for the Jazz, now plays for the Cavs. We've seen him do this with Stance socks. And we've seen other players, if you look at Andar, their top selling product is a collab with a creator, with an influencer. It's pretty public, so I don't feel weird saying that. And yeah, so you ultimately want to step toward a royalty deal with them. Whatever the stepping stones are to get there, you just kind of consider them on a individual basis, right? If you need to do a pay for post first, if you need to bring them in for a podcast, sometimes they want to talk business and they don't want to do a podcast. So there's no one way with those people. The podcast is just a tool to level up because it's about creators, right? So it's like we can reach out to trying to think of a YouTuber who's like not crazy out of reach, like Mr. Beast, that'd be crazy out of reach.
Sure.
I don't know, an Airac or a smaller YouTuber. This is, I think, kind of the model with Emma Chamberlain, right?
Yeah.
It was like some kind of relationship developed. You're just kind of asking somebody to come be a part of content that they're already a part of. So it's a content collab. It's something they're very used to. And then from there, can we do a royalty deal?
Yeah. So is this where you see modern commerce, your company going? Like, do you like on top of media
I've thought about that a lot.
Help advise on this sort of stuff, and
I've thought about that a lot. Maybe I wanted it to be content for content's sake. You know what I mean? The more I get into building a media company, the more I realize like most of the biggest creators and media companies do have their own products, even if it's just merch. There's not a lot that are running solely on like an ads. They're just running the ad business. So especially in B2B, they usually are an extension of a company, right? And that's not true for all of them. I think that, certain podcasts like the Jocko podcast is technically considered business. Dave Ramsey is an extension of a company. I think Andy Frisella's podcast is technically considered business. So it's not all of them. Some of them are content for content's sake. And so that's what I've always thought the direction of modern commerce is. So I don't know if that's where we're going. I tend to think that that's going to be the direction. All right. Now, if the monetization mechanism changes, that's fine. But the direction of the content itself is to be content for content's sake, value for value's sake.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great, like to your point, great foundation to build like the base on. And then from there, you can be agile to, the opportunities that present themselves along the way. But
yeah, you build a lot. Like when you're building any company, you're pivoting based on kind of where the opportunities are.
Right. Okay. This flew by. Give us, we obviously talked about content, but give us some H2, second half of 2023 trends that brands, especially in the e-commerce space, D2C squarely, should keep an eye on.
at different, I mean, it's just different advice at different levels. So that's one. I mean, we covered that, and I think that's big. And I don't know if that's really going to like formulate in the second half of just the year, but a couple things that I'm seeing kind of work across brands that I work with or own are like, if you're not a inherently demonstrable product, meaning like, let me come up with a good. So Purple Mattress had this inherently like demonstrable or like visual element where it's like, sure, here's an egg. I can, try and crush it on this bed and you can't do it. Right. Or really anything like that, where it's like, there's something about this product where it's like, you see it, you get it. If you're not that, so, kind of looking at you, all the supplements out there, and anything else that's, I mean, in Andar is even kind of like this, where it's like, it's a bag. Yeah. Like you do want to see it, but ultimately it's like, it's a bag. There's nothing like that crazy special about it, or it's a wallet or whatever. If you're not that, one thing that I've noticed is you don't have to follow the normal e-commerce ad framework. And it's going to be hard to find someone who won't, because like everybody in the ad game is like, oh, just UGC, super good hook, and show the product in the first, great hook, and then show the product in the first 10 seconds and use problem, agitate, solution. And like, when you actually look at it, it all looks the same, right? Like it's not as bad and vanilla as the branded ads that we've seen, but it's also like it's all vanilla. Like it's all just come to this like homeostasis place where it's like, it's not branded, and that's the best thing I could say about it, right? It's a little more raw, it's a little more UGC, but it's not. That's like the best thing I could say about it. So we've run some where if it's not an inherently demonstrable product, where it's like really they need to be sold on the idea of like taking this supplement, as opposed to like, let's pour the supplement into liquid and mix it, and for some reason that's going to make people buy, right? Like we've actually been doing like more like word videos, so thinking a little more like a YouTuber, where it's like, I actually want to hook them with, again, and this comes from probably like doing more content, actually want to just hook them with content and like educate, inform, entertain them. And sometimes it'll just be like a word video, like legit one of my best performing ads, red background, words, like,
wow.
So that's selling a physical product, right? So that's one thing. It's not going to be for everybody, but I think any brand like that is definitely worth a test. It's like a 3-minute video. Works really well. We don't talk about the product till like 2 minutes in.
Wow.
So and you could show the product. If it's Andar, we would need to show the product, but so I think that's one thing. And I think another thing we'll maybe see more of is a little more lead gen, especially building up to Q4. I've hit this a few times, and I'm always like, economics of lead gen rarely work. But I think people are getting a little more clever, like especially in the newsletter space, of like, why can't an e-commerce brand launch a newsletter? And there's a lot of ways for like newsletters to monetize, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it could be a little more monetizable on the front end doing lead gen, and then you just put your own brand into those ad spots,
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, especially on the first point, I feel like there's again parallels between what we talked about, on the content.
I know it's that's where my brain's at now. It's all
well, it's like lead with value is like the high, always be.
That's the high level. You did a good job. Yeah, I took a long time to say that. I guess that's podcast. I did, somebody the other day was like, oh, this guy wants me to be on his podcast. I don't know if I'd be good. I was like, can you take something that only takes like 30 seconds to say and do it in like say it in 2 minutes and still make it interesting?
There you go.
If so, you'd be a good podcaster.
Well, I think there's value in it because you're actually getting into the tactics. Yeah. Whereas I'm just saying,
like lead with value. What does that even mean?
Yeah. What does that mean?
Build brand. Yeah.
Always be building brand. Yeah.
Always be. That's a
right.
A-triple-B.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. We squeezed a lot in a short amount of time. Before we hop off, John, you walked us through this super crazy, wild turning career, and you're up to some awesome stuff now. What's one thing that sort of helped you along the way, tip or trick that you sort of lean on throughout the journey?
I'm a big time like learner and networker, and I think I tried to put that in earlier. Is like I consume a massive amount of content, right? Like, and this is, I'll give you an example that is like more contextualizable to a lot of people. The Game of Thrones books are not finished, but there's 4 or 5 of them, I think, and they're long. They're really long.
Yeah.
The audio versions are like between 35 and 50 hours long.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You might as well just watch this whole series. Like
it diverges at a certain point, but I won't get into that. Yeah. I haven't watched the series. I've only read the books. I'm a purist, but wow. I had a friend, right, like who read them, and I mean, he read them as they came out, but it took me from October to January to get through that. And that was like just because I stopped consuming any of my other audio content or any other content I consumed, and I just consumed like I consume a ton. Like I'm a consumption machine in terms of like how much I consume. And when I get into a topic, I just find so many different podcasts, blogs, YouTubers, newsletters about that topic that I just like bring in as much as I can as quickly as possible. And then like as soon as that starts to feel a little stale, like I'm hearing the same stuff over and over again, then I get into networking with people about it, right? Like where do these people hang out? What are the events? What, you know, like can I just start reaching out to them on Twitter and being like, I like your stuff, you know, or like, will they respond to me? And again, like leading with value. I'm not trying to reach out and pitch them. I'm not trying to get in their LinkedIn inbox. Like that's so much of the problem with what I see is like people are just like, hey, buy my shit, you know, like I don't know if I can swear on your podcast. I just
yeah, you're good. The LinkedIn outreach right now is just
it's so bad, dude. Nobody reaches out and just says like, hey, I saw this video and I liked this about it. They'll be like, I saw your podcast, are you interested in me clipping it? I'm like, have you actually seen it? Like right. So yeah, like I think that like a lot of it is just like consume everything people are putting out, right? Like as much as I can. And I'll try as many people as I can. I'll find the ones that I like. I'll like just take in as much information as I can about any topic that I get into. And this has just happened all the way through, right? Like when I was getting into ads, like I got really good at running ads really quickly because of exactly what I said earlier. I was like, okay, I'm just taking in as much like information as I can. And then when I'm like, okay, I have questions and I can't ask questions in this like one-way communication, then I just started networking. And like, I've always kind of tried to punch up when I network as well. I don't know if that's good or not, but it's what I do.
Yeah. I feel you said network is the net worth earlier. And
yeah, I didn't come up with, someone else said
that. No, I've heard that one before, and I'm a big fan and advocate of it. And I'm always cognizant of it.
And when I say network, I mean like just like naturally actually meet people and like try and build a like valuable two-way relationship, like bring value to them, you know?
Yeah. If you leave
not like let me go to this networking BNI in my local area. Don't do that. That's awful.
Yeah. That's not good. Don't do that. That's the best advice of the three. Don't do that.
Here's some stuff you don't do. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Awesome, John. We're a few minutes over, so I'm going to let you go, but really appreciate you stopping by and excited to see all the cool things you'll be up to over the next couple quarters.
Yeah, appreciate you. I didn't get to shout out Malomo. It's good. You should use it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Will you guys release my family now?
Not yet. I was going to say not necessary, but yeah, we can do that for you and the dogs.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, John. Thanks for
Thank you. Okay.
See you.